Okay, I welcome everybody, and what better can I start with than with a quote from the best racing driver in the world. And he once said, GP2 engine, GP2 engine. But he also said one thing, which is, I am not the best racing driver in the world. If I go drive across Mexico, who's then the best racing driver in the world? And then another guy, who's pretty much related to that guy, that is his team boss, and that is Zach Brown. And in a press conference just recently, he was telling something about the world's fastest gamer contest. And he said, our audience is getting older, and we need an audience which is getting younger for Formula One. So esport is not the only solution, but it can be a big contributor to it. So there's these two guys, actually pretty much related, because it's the driver and it's a team boss. And then we have a company which is Nuzu, and they actually do some market research. And when I was preparing for this discussion we will have here, I was going through a report they just published. And they were stating that the esport market is developing so rapidly with new players entering the space every day, and local esport initiatives growing explosively. So we have here a third actor who's actually describing what is happening right now with esport and sim racing in general. And then another guy you might know, because he's also in this world's fastest gamer thing, that is Matthew Trivitt. And he said the unique thing about racing esport is the skills required to race can rapidly transfer across the real thing. So that is not always the case with other genres. And a colleague of him, who's also a guy from Millennium Esports, who are organizing and... sorry? Yeah? Okay. He said that Millennial Esports want to professionalize the esport racing scene to provide a more structured platform for brands to come into this space. So what I tried to put here is we have a lot of guys who are showing different solutions, different perspectives. So on top, we have that thing what is fascinating everybody of us. That is like the challenge, competing against each other, being the best. That is what racing is about in general. And then we have like an interest coming from the outside to sim racing, telling that there is a solution for something which is not defined yet. And then we have that party who is describing what is happening right now. That is an explosive development. So it's a status quo somehow. And then we have some tries to explain what is happening there. So it's going around skills, it's transferable to the real thing, and also we have some actors who are trying to put business into it, like, I don't know, bring brands into, create opportunities. And why I'm saying all this is because we are here at the world's greatest exposition on sim racing, and we are kind of, everybody is unified in the same thing, and we wanted to know how we maybe can work together on one big thing, and that is how we can shape the future of sim racing. What is going to be, how all the different interests can really come together, and therefore we created this podium discussion. And if I introduce myself, I'm Manuel Sudau, and I am head of Rennsport Online. And I have here on stage 4 people, and I will introduce them quickly. To my left, that is Wani Finkbohner. Wani is 42 years old. He's from Switzerland, and he's head of the Racing Fuel Academy and some other brands. He has a real professional motorsport career behind him. He worked as a journalist in several motorsport titles. Maybe you can add it later. And he will, yeah, maybe tell some interesting things. Then we have Alexander Herbst-Ortem. He's the CEO of Race Union. And the Race Union is the company who, first of all, is enabling us to have this discussion here. So that is what I'm very thankful in the first place. And also, we are very interested in what you're going to tell us, what Race Union is about, what you're going to do. And then to my right, I have Rene Buttler. Maybe some of you know him because he's pretty much, I would say, famous. I think you are. And the next famous guy is Fan Boost Mustache Pahkala. Everybody knows him. And he will give us some insights from several perspectives. So he's not only a Team Redline driver, but also head of some associations and these guys behind, Fanatec. So yeah, let's get this discussion started. And I just have the names here. And maybe if I start with you two guys. So I mean, we're talking about sim racing, how to shape the future, and that is something which we're doing in the Nürburgring, and that is for a reason. So. What is sim racing for you? What fascinates you, Alex? And what do you think is the connection to the real world of motorsport and why we're here?
Hello. Yeah, the fascination of sim racing to me is like, you know, the escalation, the possibility of escalation of racers bringing actually on the racetrack. That is quite different, you know, from the privilege, you know, from the real motorsport, what is high expensive. It's, you know, you have the real cars. You have to buy, you know, always, you know, the same amount of tires, the same amount of engines and shifters, etc. And but at the end, you reach just a handful of people for the interest of the emotion and enthusiasm of motorsport, and that's quite different in the sim racing industry because, you know, there you're thinking worldwide, you're acting worldwide. Depends on the time zones, but that is for me the most fascination, that you can reach right now through the interweb, you know, all the people in the world who are interested in motorsports.
And maybe Wani, if you can first add some background information about what you're going to do, because you are actually already connecting the real world of motorsport to a virtual world, and you're doing that because you are convinced that there is benefits. So maybe you can tell us first what you're doing, and then tell us why you're doing that, because which benefits you see in that.
Well, first of all, I would like to say that it's passion who is connecting us, the real and the virtual world of racing, and this is what I'm trying to do. I'm running this training center in Zurich, where it's a drivers club actually, where we bring pros, real drivers, and sim racers together, and building our own simulators, of course, and we're having fun and trying to educate real racer and sim racers and bring them together to have a good time and compete each other.
And when you have real racing drivers there, what do they tell you about how does it feel to sim race? Like, what is their feedback they give, and how is that maybe different from what you hear from the sim racers?
Biggest difference I noticed is sim racers very often race with socks, and which is funny, but I understand, of course, and what I try to achieve with my own simulators is to bring them to a very high professional level. Let's say you sweat in a car, and I try to make sim racers sweat too. And this is a nice connection, and also I think we both benefit from each other. The sim racer is a very, I won't say nerd, but I will say the sim racer is very precise in what he's doing, and the real race driver brings the whole passion into it, and together they can combine their skills.
And to come to to switch perspectives, maybe, Olli. I mean, I don't want to offend anybody. Maybe you agree. I would say you are head and racing driver of the best racing team in the sim racing world, maybe at the moment. And what is very interesting about Team Redline is that anybody who's driving at Redline seems to end up in a real world job, somehow connected with sim racing, somehow connected with motorsport. And how, like, if Wani is describing now that, like, what the real racing drivers see as an advantage for sim racing, what do you see as an advantage from the real world, from the sim racer's perspective?
Yeah, I think you know, it's obvious that especially all the young drivers, well, like we have Neil and Max and all those guys doing simulators, you are so much more prepared when you on a daily basis use a simulator. You race, you practice, you use the laser scan tracks, all those stuff. So you are so much more prepared when you go on a racing weekend because you have the routines for the racing. So that's, I think, one of the biggest things what the real racers could take the advantage of from sim racing. That's for sure. I mean, if you compare a real racer who does sim racing and who doesn't do sim racing, so the gap is massive. So the real racer who does not do sim racing, he might have like hundreds of hours of less of actual racing experience, whereas you as a sim racer do a race on a daily basis for 2 years. So you end up in a different type of drivers. Everyone has their own driving personality and racing personality. So that guy who does sim racing has at least the experience of doing all those tricks and how to handle all the competition situations out there. I think that's one of the biggest things what sim racing can bring to the real driver. So.
And I mean, what we see right now with all these contests going on, so there's not only World Fastest Gamer, but there's also the Nissan Academy, maybe as the very known kind of assessment center. And if we see these like external interests dragged into our, let's say, like closed world of sim racing, what do you think a future career from sim racing into the real world? Like, if I'm now, let's say, 14 years old and I'm a passionate sim racer, how do I plan my career? Which steps I have to go? Is there like a typical sim racing career where you can end up, I don't know, like a simulator driver at McLaren, or I don't know how you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the route is always unclear. That's same for real motorsport as well. You need to start off with something, and it was for me. I started sim racing 5 years ago, and look, I'm now working in a Fanatec, doing the business there, and working hard for communities with the federation and association, as well as driving all the time with the high-end competition. So obviously you need to start off somewhere, and I think it's the similar with sim racing and real racing, is that as long as you work hard for it and you are determined that at some point you will be around, you know, as a hired sim racing engineer or for real companies or manufacturers, you know, you need to start off somewhere, and yeah, it's difficult to determine the end game, what specifically it could be, but I think once you start off and work hard, it comes there. So like for example in Team Redline, we usually, when we get a lot of inquiries from drivers to join our team, obviously, and yeah, but it's not only that. We need to evaluate the driver as well, how well how motivated is he, how much work does he do for himself, for driving, for sim racing, and you need to have also some sort of PR skills as well, you know, especially now when we are growing a lot. So you will be on stages and there's media around you, so you need to know how to speak publicly. So, you know, there are so many things what you can improve as a driver by only as a driver. So I think that hard work pays off, and yeah, it takes time. You get the experience, and then you end up somewhere. So.
Okay, and coming with that, so I think we pretty much describe like what both sides can benefit from, and what is like, I don't know, the benefit of combining everything. And now, Alex, You're the CEO of Race Union, and they are everywhere right now. So it's actually you're very much starting to I don't know, push sim racing to a next level. Maybe you can try to explain what Race Union is about, what your plans or what your visions are maybe with sim racing, and why is sim racing interesting for you to get into?
Yeah, thank you. As I said, like, you know, the escalation of reaching people, reaching interested racers, in that case sim racers all over the world, that is for us the main goal, what we want to achieve. Therefore, you know, we established for the next season, like starting in November, our own race series called Porsche World Cup Tour, something like that, and 6 races, and we spend a bit of prize money. We have a live race commission. We have certain rules, same like the rules in the Blancpain series, and yeah, and that is like, you know, after we spent the last year, or like the year 2017, you know, watching and being involved in the sim racing, iRacing community, we just want to make the next step, and we want to see, you know, how that series, you know, comes up in terms of competitors, in terms of fairness, in terms of business, and then we want to make the next level step. You said next level, and the next level will be reached, you know, in case of our business plan in 2019, and yeah, and that is where we put effort in. Since, you know, we did real motorsport since 2010 here on the Nürburgring together with the Teichmann Racing guys, Rennfahrer gesucht. And right now, you know, we are involved in the Carrera Cup with Huber Racing. And just, you know, to mirroring both sides of real motorsport and sim racing and bringing, you know, the enthusiasm together, that is our main goal.
You said one very interesting point somewhere in between. You said it pretty much needed some time to get into the community, to understand what sim racing is like, how it works. And you also said you're coming from the real racetracks, and like, what would you describe as the very difficult thing, why you have to learn how sim racing works? Why is it different?
I mean, you cannot enter a new spot, a new scene and say, hey, here I am, and yeah, let's do it like, you know, I see it. That is not the way, you know, sim racing works. Sim racing works, you know, through so many different communities, you know. I got so many new friends, you know, especially on Facebook, since I'm involved in the sim racing industry, and, you know, from all the discussions, from all the talks, you know, we had also here on the racetrack, it was a quite different thing. The community is number one, and that is the main important thing inside the entire sim racing industry. And, you know, for guys like us and companies like us, it's now important, you know, to use that force, that power, you know, to get, you know, to be driven, you know, in the right direction. And the right direction from us is, you know, you have to put some money on the table. You have to create some business cases, like, you know, to get the outside sponsors interested, you know, in doing more and more in the sim racing, because you know, if you look here in the German real motorsport industry, you know, how the people start, it's like with kart sports, and I guess, you know, you have maybe 100 young guys in Germany, you know, who got financed through their families to do real motorsports in the kart sports, what cost like something about 100,000 per season. And, you know, with the sim racers, especially here in Germany, you know, you can reach, you know, with especially that money, like, I don't know, 10,000 people, you know, bringing, you know, to the motorsports industry, which is here right now, the sim racing, obviously. But yeah, that is what fascinates me, like, you know, how many people you can reach, you know, with if you have a straight thought, if you have a plan, if you know exactly what you want to do, you know, and what you want to achieve, and that is what we actually do.
And, maybe if I continue here, Rene, I mean, what we have here now is like something developing. So we have different interests. We have the sim racing, which was already existing, and I would say at some level has a very professional level. So we have the competition. Now we have interest coming from the outside. And I know you're very experienced with other esports disciplines. And maybe when we're discussing this, are you seeing parallels? So maybe is there something clicking and you're like, nah, do it maybe different, or what your plans are? I don't know. Like, can you give us some opinion? Is sim racing behind? Are we doing the same development like, let's say, League of Legends 10 years ago or something? Are we doing a different development? So what are we doing?
I mean, first of all, racing and sim racing in general is totally different. There are some similarities, like it's always about competition and passion. Like everywhere in esports, doesn't matter if it's an FPS game or a MOBA game, it's about competition, team feeling, and of course, like how to progress, how to get somewhere, have tournaments, see something happening. Sim racing is behind kinda on esports, obviously, with other games being played in big stadiums already. That never happened for sim racing yet. No, this does not count. I can show you some events and then you know what I mean. So there's no problem with sim racing. It's just it's slower due to the fact that there is a real life counterpart, and sim racing needs to develop its own identity. It's a bit like FIFA, for example. Everyone knows football. There's also football esports, but it's not as big as League of Legends, as Counter-Strike, as Crossfire in China, whatsoever. It's just sim racing needs to pick up the identity, need to create itself, and then become a thing. From the business perspective, sim racing got everything that all the other games got as well. We know that the target audience is way younger than for motorsport. It's easier to get into, even with Fanatec equipment, that might be around 1,000 euro if you want to get into it. But buying a GT3 car is over 500,000, and you still need to pay the weekend to actually race. So sim racing has everything it takes to bring people in, or racing in general. I don't want to count out other racing games because you don't start with being super hardcore. You always start somewhere down low. There is enough to make sim racing a thing in esports, but it's just not there yet because we're missing the huge crowd of casual players. We got a very professional sim racing part with Olli, like Core, Pure Racing, like all the Koanda Motorsport, all the big teams. They are super professional, but we miss the casual part down there to actually watch the racing action. So we need to teach people racing is cool. It doesn't matter on which games we do that. It's just they need to learn, hey, motorsport is a thing because we know that motorsport for young people is not as important anymore, or cars in general, as it was in the past. So we need to teach them, hey, racing is thrilling action, it's awesome, it's amazing, you need to watch it. And then we go up to the pyramid and build up sim racing as an esport.
But what is really missing that we can't achieve it? I mean, what we have here, if I just walk around, if I see like all the people, I don't know, standing in front of the simulators with a big smile. So that is passion, that is like identity, kind of. I mean, everybody who's here at least. So how can we transfer that?
The people you got here, without blaming them, they all know about racing, most of them. Let's say 90, 95% know about racing. So how do you grab that new audience? I mean, a lot of racing games have been at Gamescom. We had the Project Cars final back then, the World Final on Gamescom. We had over 800 people watching it live at the stage. But there was just a small amount of people that knew about racing. So we need to go, like, venture to other places and get people interested in racing. Not only, like, esports is not only killing people, winning around. It could be racing as well. It's just show them that there is something. Because every time I did esports with racing, when we started the Forza Racing Championship or any other championship, I had so many people on Twitch saying, oh wait, there's racing? Like there's an esports with this? People not doing it at home in their very expensive rigs for fun? No, there's actually competition. That means there's so many people out there that might be interested in racing and sim racing in general, but they don't know about it yet.
So, like one big thing I understand for transferring it is actually broadcasting. So bringing it to, I don't know, to the living rooms of everybody. And then maybe if I come back to you guys, when we talk about transferring this, so you said you are kicking off a new series, Alex. And how do you transfer that? Like, how do you transfer passion? How do you transfer competition to the living rooms? What do you think?
passion is something, you know, you have inside your heart and like maybe also inside your soul. But competition is like if you put some money on the table, if you just organize a series where you spend some prize money to get people involved who are interested, like also, you know, not in being first, but also being successful. That is how you create normally, like also in the real world, competition. And that is like, you know, for us, actually maybe it doesn't sound great, but for us that's the truth. Money makes a competition, and therefore the series we created is just like, you know, our first test balloon, how the crowd is accepting a series, you know, where, you know, you have certain rules, hard rules, plus you have some competition prizes. And that is how we see that. But the passion thing is like you have it or you don't, and that is also the, you know, the experience, you know, we made over the last 5, 6, 7 years here at the Nordschleife.
Okay, sounds easy. Money, competition, brings me to Vegas, Olli. I mean, just at the beginning of the year we had like money, it was competition. What do you think? Like, did it work? What was Vegas doing for sim racing?
I think Vegas, you know, obviously there's $1 million on the table, and any normal casual gamer basically can win it. So the reach was huge. I mean, there was a lot of flaws, and this was caused, I think, because the company who I'm not talking about the Formula E FIA, but the real big bummer for me and for the community was that the game and the platform and all these little details what community has been knowing for 10, 15 years how to do it, and the organizers from the software and did not come to any of us to ask how are we able to do this. And if you would ask any of these pro guys over here, how would you do it? They more or less know what and how to do it, you know. So I think in the end, the Visa Vegas E-Race was a massive and big pusher, and it, you know, it was basically the first big major one. I would not, no offense on the ESA, you've been doing great. So, but yeah. After the Vegas, there's been popping out new things. It got a lot of traction. There's World Fastest Gamer, F1 Esport, SMSR. You did great show in the Gamescom as well. I loved it. So these things are popping out now, and that was, I think, because of the Vegas. So the guys, even though could have done better with the sim wise and all these details, but in the end, it attracted a lot of people and showed that this has potential. And what should do differently, or I don't know their plans, but we need something sustainable and be there, not like 1 million spin-off every 2 years, because it's cool obviously, but how can you grow and I totally agree with you with getting the base. So we really need to work with the community and grow the base so we are strong together. So then you have the audience all the time. So let's say these guys over here decide that let's do a Project Cars 2 championship together, and top 5 of these guys gets in. So I'm pretty sure the whole bunch of people will watch the final for whatever, $500,000 or whatnot. So, and it needs to be all the time, growing, doing it constantly. We did it in Finland, so we started from the scratch 3 years ago, and we tried to push, create routines, grow the base, and now we ended up with no budget on a national TV live, So I'm on a board with rather not trying spin-offs, or we need to really work on it slowly and build it up and reach the people and get the people into sim racing. I think that's really the way to go, and make it easy for people to start off. Plug and play.
I mean, if I understand it right, you somehow described what is a bottom-up process, right? So maybe Rene, you can tell us how did it or how does it work in other disciplines? I mean, how is bottom-up working? Like, I don't know, me as a team, what can I do bottom-up? Like, what can I bring into it? Do I have to wait for an organizer throwing around with money and saying like, okay, this is the competition, now the broadcasting, everything? What can I do?
To do what? It was really hard to understand you. What do you want to do?
Like for me as a team, what can I do to support this bottom-up process?
I mean, first of all, we need to understand what Olli said with not doing spin-off events. It always starts with that. So the Formula E race or the Formula E Vegas E race was a great thing. And even if the hardcore community disliked it because we guys know what was wrong, most of the casual ones didn't know. They didn't know. For them, it was all right. So that's okay. That's how it works. No, it is like that, believe me. It's just, if you want to get organizations in with money, like let's say Team Solomid, Cloud9, like the NA teams, for example, or SK Gaming in Europe, you need to have a plan for at least a year. Because why should they spend money on training their drivers for a racing game now if they know, oh, there's only that one-off event and it might not return? That's what happened on the Vegas E-Race. No one knew, like, is it really worth my money, like, as an organization? So, yes, first thing is we need to bring back championships over and over again. We need to make sure that the contracts we have and the organizations we bring in, the sponsors we have, can bring us an esports program that runs at least a year or longer. Because that's what you see on Forza right now. They're launching, I guess, season 4 soon. They did 3 seasons already. With every season, they got bigger teams involved because they see, oh, okay, this is here to stay, which is something we currently miss in sim racing or racing in general. Of course, we have championships that have been there for years, but that's another level. It's another competition style. It's not like mainstream esports. So we need to bring those events to the table every single time. As a team, start supporting everything. Even if you, like, we know about sim racing, let's be honest, it's always the same problem. You do something, and the first thing you hear from your friends, it's the wrong game, wrong car, wrong track, I don't like it.
It's not a game.
Yeah, I don't care. No, that's not right. Okay, wrong simulation, I'm sorry. I always say games, I don't know why. Well, even after 15 years. Okay, so, because back then it was games, people were okay with it.
It's okay. We forgive
but
you.
you know, it's hard for them to support everything because they say, it's not exactly what I'm looking for. But it does not matter for the whole picture. If you want a great competition on your simulation, you need to make sure that all the companies involved see that there is a market, that there is an audience, that there is something to grow. If you always say, I don't support it because it's not running the track I want, not running the combination I want, then you will never get your game or your simulation. It's like, with the games we're playing, we're up here in the pyramid. But there's so many games underneath which can actually grow the audience. It would be as, we can't kill everything and just keep Formula 1. It does not work. You need all the other motorsport disciplines. And it's the same in racing and sim racing in general. People need to start support racing as a whole and not just their simulation, their car, their discipline.
That's an interesting point. That's a good one. I will remind that for tomorrow. But Alex, let's come back again. So because what we were discussing is pretty much clear. You have like, I understand it like that. So we have some kind of lacking skills. So we have the professional level on track, but we don't have the knowledge, like as teams, for example, to help the bottom-up process. And now you with Race Union, you are trying to bring in your experience with organizing things. So you're going into the organizer role, and you're establishing this championship you were talking about for several months. And now, as a team, if I participate now in this, what was it, Porsche World Challenge, or what is the name? Race Union Porsche Cup, I don't know. If I participate there, what can I do as a team to help the series be at least not sustainable, but maybe resilient, so long-lasting? I want to have a second, a third, a fourth season. What can I do?
I mean, you as a team with SO, you are highly professional. You are a team with very good drivers, so you are participating in the pro class. And I think since, you know, we want to get also some amateurs starting in the series, you have to show these amateurs, the newbies, that you and your drivers, drive safely, fairness, sportive characters, and that is like, how you as a highly professional team can help to improve that series. That's, for me, number one.
At this point, if I go through what I hear now, I think everybody of you pretty much agrees that it is a very positive picture we're creating here. I'm pretty sure tomorrow at 11 we're doing the same thing, but we're digging into a deeper topic. Because is it all roses, Wani? What do you think, like from your perspective now? Is there limits from the terms of simulation itself? So is there things which we can simulate? Okay, yes, it's no G-forces, I know that, but what do you think is maybe limiting these ideas we have here, which is pretty much positive?
Well, I think, first of all, probably the risk is to have enough entrants. And the other thing is to have really coming away from the gaming and being in a simulation, being really showing this sporting character, as Alex said, and having a nice and fair racing. And I think is the key for a nice series. And I would like just to add that it's a great opportunity you have here with the sim racing. And this will, if we have nice racing, online racing, this will really boost the whole sport, real and virtual.
To come back to you, Rene. Obviously, I don't get a very negative point from anybody here on stage. Like, maybe because I think it's always a nice thing if we see something has developed already. If we have a look on it and see how they did it and what maybe didn't work well. When we're talking about risks or negative points, what is maybe endangering all this, what we're planning here? Like dropping money, everybody's working together, everybody's liking each other. It's like a fairy tale world we're living in. That's nice. How does it work?
The dangers for whom? That's the problem. Like the dangers for players, for companies, for organizers, for people like you. I don't know.
I mean, that's my question. I mean, for people like me, I don't know. I'm a driver, maybe. I would say I'm a driver.
I mean, the first danger is that we currently, if you compare to other games and how they developed, currently we have professional teams up here, but we miss everything else. Let's be honest. It starts with what I said. I didn't said simulation. I said game. That's how the community reacts, and that's how we scare away people. Like, why should we do that? If they enjoy another car, another racing game, that's all right, as long as they enjoy motorsport and the passion in general. So that's one of the dangers that could happen, because we're so professional while everything else is behind. I don't want to say that Redline is not as professional as other esports teams or organizations. They are. But we're missing everything else that's leading up to that. So we need to stop scaring people away from racing. On real motorsports, it's the money barrier. It scares away most of the people. So we don't have that in sim racing or racing. Why should we do that? Why should we put a label on everything and say to people, oh, you can't race because you don't know about that and that? People need to learn. We need to teach people. We need to let them explore and have fun in racing in general. Not just in the lines we see. It's not only about our competition, about the classes we like or how to race. No, there needs to be an entrance, especially for young people. You need to open up the world so they can actually enjoy it. And at one point, they will become more professional. But we miss this amateur rank up to professional teams. Because if you keep racing as a whole and say, we now name Simulation A the highest thing ever, it's like the most hardcore game, the most hardcore simulation on the market, then all the people from down low would actually watch that, because they are like, wow, look at these people on the stream, that looks really good, that looks so professional. I know how hard it is because I'm doing it on that game, and then seeing what they do, wow, that's cool, I want to be them, I want to go there. And we need to start this path of showing people, hey, this is all racing, you can enjoy it in every stage of racing, but you can actually go up there and race with the others. And that's what we're missing right now. That's my biggest fear in racing and sim racing, is that everything might be too professional right now on the team side and the community side, and that we close out all the people that want to get in, because we checked with some people that were new to racing and tried to bring them in and monitor what they're doing in racing. It's very hard to get into. First of all, you need to know all the forums, you need to know all the mods, setups, settings for your wheel, besides all the stuff you need to buy for it. Okay, it's still bearable, you can do it, but the entrance is way higher than just downloading the next FPS, jump on a ranked game in a ranked mode in the game, just have some fun and realize, oh, I'm actually pretty good at this. I want to spend more time in it, grinded it, and maybe one day a team picks me up. That does not happen in racing anymore. It does not, and that's what we need to bring back.
It's actually, if I could say quickly, arrogantly, so that's actually quite funny, but so in my perspective, every manufacturer, every game developer, and who wants to get involved in sim racing, every one of us is pushing the sport. So we are not big enough of saying that I will grab that audience or I will take those audience and then I'll be the major, biggest, whatever, you know. So at the moment we are not definitely reaching the numbers, but in order to grow, everyone is doing it. Project Cars, Fanatec, you guys, if you do esport, yeah. Of course, you're doing the promotion for sim racing and reaching all the time to people. So I totally get your point that there is vulnerable or a big minus in communities out there for sure. In Finland, in Indonesia, Germany, it's out there. People are really committed to a simulator, and the mentality is it needs to be this. It needs to be hardcore, and that's it. That's a lot of, I'm not saying that's for everybody, but there's that mentality which we need to outlearn or forget and really start approaching of sim racing in general. That's why I created the Finnish Sim Racing Association. I remember when we had a first talk, what should we name our association? Will it be Finnish iRacing Association or Finnish R-Factor 2 Association or whatnot? That doesn't work. Anything can happen in this scenery between manufacturers, games, whatever. So why not call everything sim racing if it's somehow related to racing or it is racing? That's my point of view and what we need to outlearn for sure.
So I think that is a very, very good starting point for tomorrow, because tomorrow we really want to continue here actually, and to maybe go deeper into how we can, I don't know, minus the risk, kind of. I mean, how can we work on getting better? And that is lack of communication, and that goes down to maybe lack of structure. So what are the structures which could hinder that? I don't know. And then you said another interesting point, which is actually coming together over several platforms in racing in general. And then we have maybe the opportunity, and we can continue here too, to support the whole scene with that process by your experience, by creating events, keeping them created, maybe be a bit patient over a year or something. And I'm very, very much interested how we can continue here with these points. I'm very thankful to you four guys. Thank you, Wani, Alex, thank you, Olli and Rene. And I will welcome on stage some of you tomorrow, and we will add some more perspectives in person of Javi Guerra from Gym Racing Team, because he will bring the marketing aspect, and that will maybe add to the skills which are missing, so I don't know that. And last but not least, I want to thank you all for your interest, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow at 11 again. Thank you.